And as I said, it's a very multifunctional port. It means any kind of ship comes to Bruges. Containers, tankers, cruise ships, you name it. But what is the main business here? The main business is double. We have two big activities here. That's gas. As I said, on the other side of your ship, you have the LNG. The LNG terminal, which stands for liquid natural gas. Liquid natural gas, why do they make gas liquid? Because by making it liquid, by cooling it down to less than 256 degrees Fahrenheit or 156 degrees centigrade minus, the gas becomes fluid, and on top of that it takes 600 times less volume. So that's very practical both for transportation and for storage. So that's the LNG. Apart from LNG, we have gas that comes in its natural form. The LNG gas is brought here by ship. The other gas is brought here by pipelines. That gas mainly comes from Norway. Okay, I'll also show you the terminal for the Norwegian gas. The second big thing, apart from gas here in Bruges, is cars. Bruges is one of the leading hubs in terms of car transportation, one of the leading hubs in the world, really. And Hank is going to drive us past the inner port of Bruges, where this activity takes place. And you will be seeing, in fact, the biggest car park in the world. As you can see, we are here on a road on this Belgian coastline. We have this tram line here, as you can see. It's, well, the longest tram line in the world, because normally tram lines are only within a city. This tram line here on our left goes all the way from here to the Netherlands, to the Dutch border in front of us, and it goes all the way to the French border behind us. Okay, as I said, Belgium is small. We have some 40 miles of coastline only, and all in all we have some 12,000 square miles. That's not big, of course. We are among the smallest countries in the European Union. So on our left we have the outer port. Your ship is on the outer port, means it has direct contact with the sea. We are now going to drive past the inner port as well. The inner port is the part to the right of the big sea lock we are going to cross now. The ships only have to pass this one sea lock to enter the inner port. This is the sea lock. So here the seawater can be stopped to allow the ships, like you see now, there is a ship entering the inner port. And Bruges is a very interesting port for ships to visit, because they only have to travel through this one sea lock to be in the inner port. No matter what the tide is, whether high tide or low tide, the ships can always enter Bruges port, because it has a deep and short entrance. In the world, you know what a hub is, a place where things arrive and leave again to be shipped to another place in the world. Well, Bruges is the leading car hub in the world. Last year, more than 3 million passenger cars were shipped through Bruges. These 3 million cars are of course not all for the local market, they're not all for Belgium. So cars arrive here on one ship and then they are taken to another place by some other ship. So these cars are moved around all the time here in the port. On your left you see the site of Mercedes-Benz. All of these cars you see over there in that multi-story garage, they're all Mercedes cars. The big brands, the big European brands, all have a site of their own here, of course, in the port. On the right, as you can see, one of the big ships that transport these cars is entering the port. These ships, like you see here, the blue one on our right, these ships contain in between 3,000 to 5,000 cars each. So they have 5 decks of cars. Okay, and offloading a ship like this, a full ship like this, can take up to 48 hours of continuous work. Of course, they do that according to a very strict plan. You cannot just remove all the cars from the left first, because that way the boat would capsize, of course. Okay, so this job is being done by the so-called shunters. Shunters are the people who drive the cars from one place to another. And they work in teams of 8. Why 8? Well, they are taken in a little van to point A, where they have to pick up a car, and then each of them picks up a car and drives it to point B, accompanied by the little van. And then they are taken back in the van to point A to pick up the next 8 cars, and so on until the ship is empty or the ship is full. This type of cars, also cranes, tractors, agricultural vehicles, you name it, anything on wheels that can be driven on or off a ship, is qualified as ro-ro traffic. The alternative is, of course, the railroad. You see some trucks as well, of course, but these trucks are only for local short distances. The long distances are covered by ships. You have one more on the right over there. It's done by ship or by train. We have trains that leave from here and that even go all the way to China or come from China. That's more than 5,000 miles from here. And back in the days, in 2017, when this railroad was opened, the main objective was the Volvo works in China. But as you know, in the meantime, China is also exporting a lot of their own brands. At the moment, there are more than 20 Chinese brands that are trying to conquer the European market. It's a big battle nowadays on the car market. These transports by train, these trains are half a mile long. Let's say more practical to do it by ship. By train it's faster, like these trains reach China after some 20 days. Overseas the ships take 40 days, but of course on a ship you can take way more cars than on a train, on a freight train transport. Over there, the cylindrical building you see, the brown and white construction you see, that is the terminal for the Norwegian gas. That gas comes here through pipelines.
Yeah, the country they'll go to depends on that. Yeah, number plates उन countries में जाएंगे जहाँ पे.
So the drive to Bruges will take less than half an hour. Bruges is only some 10 miles from here as the crow flies. So it's a very short distance. And if you look around at the landscape, now we are on a bridge, and from this bridge you will see here that the landscape is extremely flat. Flanders, that's where we are now. Flanders is the northern part of Belgium. Belgium has 2 big parts, Flanders and Wallonia, and in the middle you have Brussels. But Flanders, as you can see, is extremely flat. And to be honest with you, if we had been here, right here where we are now, 1,000 years ago, a millennium ago, we might have been swimming or rowing a boat. The North Sea came some 10 miles further land inward, almost as far as Bruges, in other words. But then people started to build dikes and dams, and in doing so they pushed back the North Sea. So the land we are on here right now is land that was gained from the sea, the so-called polderland. And the trees you can see are very, very typical of the landscape. They are the so-called poplar trees, the high trees. The ones here in front of the farm are also poplar trees, but the ones on the horizon as well, poplar trees, very, very typical of Flanders because they drink a lot of water. So this used to be sea, so it's very flat land, it's very low land. Places here are only 1 or 2 meters above the sea level. Some are even below the sea level, and also the underground water table is very high at all times here. In other words, we have to reckon with a lot of excess water. You see in the landscape always little ditches in between the acres, in between the meadows, and these little ditches have to carry away the excess water. And the trees are very helpful because they drink so much water. Also the short trees you see in front here, the first line of trees, the short trees are the so-called pollard willows. They also drink lots and lots of water, and in doing so they are very helpful for the farmers here. Okay, let's talk about the program for today. Have a walk that lasts for something like an hour and a half. Okay, the moment we leave the coach, we start our discovery of the city of Bruges. We'll take it very slowly, so that I hope everyone can keep up. And halfway our walk, I'll show you the place. I'll also show it on the map where we meet again at 3:15. At 15:15 we meet again on Walplein. I'll show you the meeting place in a moment. I'll show it on the map and I'll show it in real, of course. Okay, so it is important for you to be there at 15:15, at 3:15, and then we'll all return together to the coach. So don't return to the coach on your own. We'll return to the coach all together at 15:15, 3:15 from Walplein. Okay? Over 400 official breweries, and they produce more than 2,500 sorts of beer. So the choice is enormous. My advice there is to go into a pub and ask the waiter for a beer to your taste, either blonde or dark, sweet or bitter. You have lots of options there, and you just trust the waiter. They know their job and they will definitely offer you something to your taste. Like over here on the left, that's also a local beer being bottled here, Bruges Zot. Okay, there's one thing, one bit of advice I can give you there, that is have a good look at the label, and that will tell you how strong the beer is. And we do have beers with an alcohol volume of 12% and over. So watch out, that's as strong as wine, you can say. And then of course we also have the Belgian fries. Unfortunately some people call them French fries. I insist they are Belgian fries. Which are very, very crispy and on the outside and tender on the inside. Very, very nice. We fry them in animal fat, and that's what gives them the typical Belgian taste.
We can't have it.
We can't have it. Fat. And then of course for the people with the sweet tooth, we have waffles. We have two sorts of waffles, in fact. You have the Liège waffle, which contains a lot of sugar and it's a bit darker. And we mostly eat these Liège waffles out of our hands, on the go. But then you also have the Brussels waffle, and the Brussels waffle is a lot lighter both in color and structure, and it's very crispy. And that waffle is mostly served with toppings like cream or chocolate or strawberries, whatever. But my advice there is to eat that in a cafe, where you have in a tea room where you can do that with a fork and knife. Otherwise, it can get messy, of course. So Brussels waffle, crispy and light. Liège waffle, thicker, sweeter, and a lot of sugar. And then we have the Belgian chocolate, of course. Yes, Belgian chocolate. We have a discussion there. You know, they say, the French say they invented the chocolate, or well, the sweet. You know, the praline. We call it praline. But my information says it was a Swiss pharmacist who worked in Brussels who invented the Belgian chocolate, the praline, and it went like this. He had this idea to make it easier on his customers, let's say patients, to swallow the bitter pills. He simply covered them with a layer of chocolate, and his customers liked it so much they said, hey, why don't you make us some of that stuff without pills inside? Put something nice inside, like marzipan or liquor or cream or whatever. And that is supposedly the birth of the Belgian chocolate. Anyhow, if you want to buy Belgian chocolate, my advice is to do that in a real chocolate shop, not in a souvenir shop, and don't believe promotions. If you want a real Belgian chocolate, you buy them in a chocolate shop, and they have many good brands like Leonidas, Godiva, Neuhaus, because that's the name of the chocolate inventor. Neuhaus was the name of that pharmacist who invented the praline. Those are industrial chocolates, but very high quality chocolates. If you want to go, let's say, the extra mile, or say pay the extra dollar or the extra euro, you have to go for artisanal chocolate. And if that's chocolate that coach, now we have reached Bruges. We are on the outskirts of Bruges. Today, the historical center of the city, that's the part you see within the egg-formed shape of water, only has some 20,000 inhabitants. In the Middle Ages it used to be more. There used to be 40,000 inhabitants in ancient Bruges. But Bruges is very popular among tourists nowadays. This is the low season, but you will see still quite a number of tourists around. Last year we had over 9 million visitors in Bruges. That means if you calculate it per day, on average there are more tourists in Bruges than inhabitants in the old city, which means a lot of pressure, of course, but of course it also means income. Okay, so once again, do not try to return to the coach on your own. We'll return together from Walplein at 15:15. Please don't leave any belongings on the coach, because Hank has to take another group back to the port now. So don't leave anything on the coach. Okay? So from now on we will switch to the whisper systems. Okay? From now on I'll speak through the earbuds.